Okay, we are on. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you all for coming here, and special thanks to our today's guests from the Washington State University. We have Professor Lucrezia Paxson, Professor Mark Beattie, Professor Jacob Murray, and Professor Soobin Seo. So today they are going to present their project that they invented and developed at their university about interactive project-based learning for STEM students that is going to prepare them better for the marketplace. They're going to join in a few years after they finish the study. So I will now give the floor to you, and I don't know who's going to start. Lucrezia, if you, or Mark.
Thank you, Dubravko, and greetings to all the guests here today. It gives us great pleasure to be with you. I'm Dr. Mark Beattie, Associate Vice Chancellor for Academic and Student Affairs at WSU's Everett campus. Washington State University Everett is the youngest and the smallest campus of 6 campuses in the WSU system. We're well positioned near manufacturing, aerospace, and technology industries. Our vision aspires to be one of the state's leading public baccalaureate institutions, preeminent in STEM education and other in-demand programs, innovation, research, and application. As a preferred university partner of choice, we will gain distinction as a forward-leaning education, business, and research partner. WSU Everett's primary charge is to significantly expand across high-quality baccalaureate and graduate degree programs in the North Puget Sound region and the state. With a focus on undergraduate education, research, scientific inquiry, innovation, entrepreneurship, global interconnectivity, and sustainable growth, WSU Everett addresses regional and state economic development needs while preparing students for success and leadership in a rapidly changing world. Our faculty are passionate about the student experience and welcome our industry partners into classrooms and labs for projects. It is through these connections that we heard the desire for our graduates to be better prepared for interdisciplinary workplaces. It gives me great pleasure to introduce our 3 faculty presenters today who will share an exciting approach to meet future challenges facing our world. This trio of faculty launched a lasting collaboration while involved in the Learn, Inspire, Foster, and Transform, the LIFT program, sponsored by WSU's Provost Office. Wanting to bring the benefits of what they learned into the classroom, Drs. Murray, Sue, and Ms. Paxson launched the STEM-Oriented Alliance for Research, the SOAR project. Bringing together the disciplines of engineering, business, and communication, their students worked on interdisciplinary project-based learning industry-sponsored projects in 2019 and 2020, supported by WSU's Smith Teaching and Learning Grant. Administrative support goes beyond just providing resources. Suffice it to say that not all systems within the university were set up for success when it comes to interdisciplinary project-based learning. Working with registrars, 3 different colleges, information technology services, presenting unique challenges to overcome or work around. Relieving as much of that burden from faculty is a critical role for administration. Now embarking on their 3rd year, the trio has shown the growing interest in this approach through a presentation at the 2020 International ASEE Conference and this conversation with you today. So it gives me great pleasure to introduce our faculty for your panel. Let me begin to share my screen. There, you can see?
Yes, we can see everything.
Very good.
Thank you, Mark. My name is Lucrezia Cuen Paxson, and I am an assistant professor at the Edward R. Murrow College of Communication at Washington State University, and I teach communicating science and technology. I want to begin with some of the background of this project, and it will help to explain how we developed it and how we came to where we are. As we all know, scientists and engineers are some of the world's most cerebral people, and oftentimes they have difficulty conveying their vast knowledge and concepts to the layperson. At the same time, many of our business and communication students are equally challenged in comprehending some of the complex ideas in science and technology. As we work to prepare our students to deal with the challenges of the new age, we realize that it is imperative that we bring these students together, students of these various disciplines, to foster an environment where each can benefit from the knowledge of the others. We have entered what some call, or some refer to, as the fourth industrial revolution, cyber physical systems built on digital technologies and the internet. Like the three before it, the fourth industrial revolution is a disruptor. We are already seeing some of the impact. Robotics is leading to tens of thousands of workers already displaced worldwide. Artificial intelligence, AI, looms on the horizon. We have only a vague idea of what it's going to mean economically, culturally, and socially. But the one thing that we do know is that it's going to have a profound effect on the workplace. Now, McKinsey & Company, which is a worldwide management consulting firm, guides and reports to governments and corporations around the world. And a few years ago, they created a report on the future of jobs. And the predictions of job losses over the next decade were alarming. They estimate that up to 800 million people worldwide would lose their jobs just in the next decade. Up to 375 million of those people will need to switch occupational categories completely and learn new skills between now and 2030. And now with COVID-19, many of the things that might have changed more slowly have probably, likely, accelerated. So preparations for these changes have been underway for a while. In education, we've seen the push and trend towards STEM, STEM being science, technology, engineering, and math. We've been encouraging our students to move into the STEM fields for some time. Conventional wisdom has been that students need to study STEM in order to be workforce ready. But industry research has us reevaluating some of that conventional wisdom. So perhaps many of you know that the Google headquarters are just down the road from us in Seattle, and many of our graduates seek employment at Google. Well, a few years back, Google did some in-depth research to find out what made the best employees. For many years, their hiring practice had been based on the theory that only technicians understood technology. And so they went around the world and they hired the top IT students all across the globe. Well, in 2013, they started crunching the numbers to decide whether or not that hiring hypothesis was actually accurate. And when they crunched all of the data over a 15-year period to find out what qualities and characteristics made up the best and brightest of their employees, they were stunned by the results. The study concluded that among the 8 most important qualities of Google's top employees, STEM expertise came in dead last. Top performers had the best soft skills, things like being a good coach, communicating and listening well, possessing insights into other people's views, incorporating those views and those points of views, having empathy and being supportive of one another's colleagues, and being a good critical thinker and a problem solver. And finally, being able to make connections across complex ideas. So after Google reviewed these results, it enlarged its previous hiring practice to include students of humanities, MBAs, even artists. Google decided to follow up the Oxygen Project with another study onto what made good managers and what the secret was to the best teams. And this study found these 5 characteristics. Dependability, team members who got things done on time and met expectations. Structure and clarity, high-performing teams had clear goals and had well-defined roles within the group. Meaning, the work had personal significance to each of the members. Impact, teams that did the best work were those groups where people believed their work was purposeful and positively impacted the greater good. The last one stood out from the rest, psychological safety. We've all been in situations where, due to some fear of incompetence or uneducation, we were afraid to speak up or ask questions. It can be unnerving to be in an environment where everything that you do or say is under a microscope, or you feel that you're being judged. By creating a workspace where people in the team felt safe, comfortable with each other, Google found that the productivity of the groups soared. They called this project Aristotle, a nod to his famous statement, "The whole is greater than the sum of its parts." One of the main findings of the Oxygen and Aristotle studies was that interdisciplinary teams achieved the best performance. That was the key takeaway. So what does that mean to us as educators? What became clear is that students and instructors must be plugged into the matrix of interdisciplinary thought in order to attain the intellectual agility necessary to succeed in this new reality. We believe, and our research shows, that interdisciplinary collaboration learning is key. It is a key to the elements to success. We have been exploring ways to better prepare our students for this rapidly changing landscape, and we have identified the need for industry-responsive adaptations to our current curricula. But knowing that we need this and putting it into practice were two very different things, and that brings us to SOAR. How did we begin? Actually, it was serendipity. Jacob and I had offices across the hallway from each other, and often we would stop and talk to each other about how our students were doing, and Jacob would mention that he wished his students were a little bit better and more comfortable at communicating some of their ideas to the clients. My students, I felt, were really in need of finding comfort in discussions having to do with science and technology. And so we really saw the need for our students, but we also realized that there were challenges. We discussed the idea of building an interdisciplinary course, but as anyone in academia knows, that can be challenging logistically and also politically. So we came together with Mark and Soobin, and together came up with a new idea. And that idea was to merge some of our coursework from already standing current courses. And initially doing this type of interdisciplinary work rather than building a whole new course. From that, the idea of SOAR was born, and that brings us to the design of the course, and I'm going to hand off to Jacob to take you through that. Jacob?
My name is Dr. Jacob Murray. I'm the lead electrical engineering faculty at Washington State University, Everett. And as Lucrezia and Mark both introduced, we designed and implemented an interdisciplinary project-based learning approach, offering a transformative educational experience to students by merging coursework in 3 different academic disciplines: electrical engineering, integrated strategic communications, and hospitality and business management, and across 3 different courses amongst those disciplines: Marketing 360, Com 400, and EE 416. And in the spring of 2019, so last spring, we brought together 59 students from these 3 different courses, 28 students from the Marketing 360 course, 10 students in the Com 400 course, which is Communicating Science and Technology, and 21 students in Engineering Design Management, or the EE 416 course. The EE 416 course is a year-long capstone project that all of the engineering students have to take. We assigned them to 7 industry-sponsored projects. The students were required to work together to deliver a product and a marketing and communication package to their clients. You can see some of the example projects that were from the 2019 year. So you can see a deep sea battery, interactive STEM-focused children's educational display, Internet of Things data acquisition unit, grow coral to take carbon out of the atmosphere, a multi-product calibrator automated switching system, a work cell tracker, and an insert finder. And you can see the sponsoring companies on the right. All of our projects are industry-sponsored projects. This has been traditional within the engineering discipline, although we have since added communication and business students to each of the projects as well. Next slide, thank you. The deliverables for each discipline and for each interdisciplinary unit or team were spelled out in great detail. This forced a dispersal of responsibility so that no one discipline bore all the burden. Kind of like that Aristotle project, as Lucrezia mentioned earlier. Our objective was to attempt to mirror, in some respect, project work in industry. So you can kind of see here, it might be a little difficult to read, but in the oval, there's a variety of joint work required for all the students to do. And then there were very specific tasks and deliverables for the engineering, communication, and business students. The engineering students, for example, focused on building prototypes of the actual product that the client was looking for. Communication students focused on infographics and video design, and you guys will see a few example videos today of that. And business students focused on branding and a marketing and business plan. Next slide. As an example, here's some of the work output of one of the project groups sponsored by Boeing. On this slide, you can see an example of their final poster. And even more impressive is the videos that teams were asked to create. So at this point, Dubravko, if you can put on the first video of the Uplift Energy group.
Yes, of course. Just give me a few seconds to share my screen and start everything. Just a second.
I have a question. Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I see multiple projects that your students been working on, but can you tell me, do you know how many of those projects were brought in life in industry? Do they mostly end up as prototype or they come into play?
Yeah, typically the projects, we're always looking for, when we talk to industry about these, students have the opportunity to fail a course, right? So we always ask industry, do you have a side project that you would love to have worked through, but that's not in your critical path, right? So we're not necessarily trying to give the students critical path projects that have hard deadlines, because they're students and they theoretically could fail and not do well on the project. Not that that's our hope, but that's a fact of life and reality. So typically these are side projects that the company would like to have. Have these projects moved on to fruition? Absolutely. Students have gotten job opportunities from this that they've moved directly into the company. There's a very local company, two of the projects that were described in this specifically, Ocean Gate. I'm seeing their advertisements now on my Facebook for sending people down to the Titanic. So this is a deep sea submersible, for example, where we've had 2 student groups work on that project, and they ended up hiring 3 or 4 of our students from that. So that was a really big success story as an example. An additional example, we had a group sponsored by Boeing several years back, and they ended up winning first place in the WSU business plan competition, and their work was actually patented by Boeing. So yeah, these are definitely meaningful projects. I mean, not every one is, getting patented. Not every student is getting hired directly by their client, but there are a lot of those success stories.
Another one. Did you have trouble communicating with the companies at the start to bring that in life, or did it go, I don't know, more smoothly? They were, I don't know, happy that you came to them with that proposal.
Yeah, typically we solicit local companies. Usually it's local, but it doesn't have to be. For project ideas. So I'm not necessarily pitching the idea to the companies. The companies are coming to me with potential project opportunities. And we try to, it's always somewhat of a hectic time making sure that we have enough projects. But the burden to the company is fairly low. We don't have any specific cost requirements for the company to like donate specific funds, but they do, we request that they provide a mentor and that they provide enough funds to support whatever it is they're asking the students to build. But yeah, traditionally we haven't had an issue getting enough projects. We are very extremely co-located next to Boeing, and they have been very generous to support many of our projects in the past. So in the work, obviously we want a diverse set of projects from a diverse set of clients, but in a pinch, there are definitely some larger companies here willing to contribute multiple projects. Great questions. Dubravko, on that video, I think your sound wasn't
okay. I noticed that Jose tried to turn his mic on. Perhaps Jose wants to make a comment or question. No, he's not. He doesn't hear me, obviously. Okay, I will repeat the film. So just give me 2 seconds.
Yeah, I think your sound wasn't on the first time either.
Yeah. Oh, just a second, please. I always forget this. To turn the sound on. Just a minute. I apologize, but what can I do? Now it will be fine.
Earth, home to Earth, home to abundant energy sources such as solar, hydroelectric, and wind power. But we want more. A source of energy that does more, one that is portable to help after any natural disaster known to mankind. To harness power uniquely to keep nature, and give the next generation its best chance. We are Uplift Energy, the Washington State University Everett's Boeing Scholar team who took on this mission to find a better source of energy. We started with the basic idea of creating a wind farm made out of kites, but quickly realized that gliders would be more effective. Thus, the team created a 2-glider system that alternates autonomous flight of each of the gliders. One goes up and pulls on a line connected to the base, generating electricity through the rotation of a motor housed within. It functions similarly to those flashlights you have to wind up to generate electricity to its light bulb, but instead of the light of a flashlight, Uplift Energy system has the power to generate enough electricity to power a small village, an emergency response team, an off-grid home, and even the most remote of news teams. The mission? To create a movement and provide power for all. Just one question remains. How can Uplift Energy uplift you?
Great, thanks for showing the video. Mark, if you can put the slides back up. So I don't know about all the engineers in the room, but I personally don't think my engineering students could create a video of that quality. So again, that's the benefit there of working with communication students, right? You get a nice quality video output that demonstrates the technical work that the students are doing, but in a much more digestible form. So what Mark's got on the screen right now is our SOAR project roadmap. Based on comments and feedback, we decided to redesign our course so that what we just kind of discussed was the 2019 semester. So over the summer of 2019, we decided to redesign our course. We focused on redesigning the course structure to enhance the student experience. Some changes and additions included the addition of group and individual assignments, the continuation and enhancement of a kickoff meeting and escape room activities, the inclusion of more interdisciplinary sessions, and the creation of a roadmap to visualize the project timeline. And here's the project at a glance. The roadmap shows students the major milestones which are linked to the interdisciplinary sessions. All of the interdisciplinary sessions you see in the roadmap are the hexagons. After each session, students will be asked to work on a group and individual assignment before the next session. And the interdisciplinary sessions that we had are intended to increase the team's capacity to complete the project while also becoming more aware of themselves in the process. And they include a kickoff session, which initialized communication among the group members. Just kind of a layout of how this goes. As I mentioned, the senior design, the electrical engineers are on a year-long project. So they've already been doing the project for the first semester, that first 15-week semester, before we add those comm and business students. And so this project roadmap really focuses on that second semester where we've added comm and business students in. So the engineering students haven't met those folks yet. So that kickoff meeting really introduces the group and starts to get them to communicate with one another. The second week, there's an assumptions session, which is to clarify goals and clear up any misconceptions. We're going to do an activity here in a minute, kind of along those lines. We had workshops and group activities, a business pitch, a media release and product pitch rehearsal, and final presentation to the client. In a workplace setting, team members are expected to work together to complete projects. The SOAR group project emulates this process by the group's engagement in taking a potential product from development to the world. As in a work environment, students will be evaluated as individuals and as a team for the work they do together. As students work towards engineering, business, and product marketing plans together, they will be expected to submit deliverables. They will then revise those deliverables at each iteration based on feedback received and growth in their own and the collective group's understandings. Each group assignment extends the work from the previous, culminating in a SOAR portfolio. And the portfolio includes a project vision and summary, a product description, significance and rationale and market description, a business pitch, and a media release and product pitch. We also added individual assignments as a way to reflect and enhance the student's experience with the SOAR project. Those were mainly surveys. So there was a think to yourself survey, a thinking about my team survey, a team building survey, reflect and what's next survey, a individual letter to me. So they wrote a letter to their former selves at the beginning of the semester, giving themselves guidance, and a 360-degree peer review. As an example of some of the interactive discussion of our interdisciplinary sessions, I'm going to put up an activity that we're all going to participate in for a few minutes. So I'll take the screen now, Mark. See if I can do this right. All right, unfortunately, I can't see anyone now that I have this maximized. Let me give me 1 second. I love how Teams works. Okay, I think I'm good. Does everyone see the website link on the screen? Perfect. Okay, so if you all could try to get to that website link. I
posted the link in the chat.
Perfect. There's also the link posted in the chat. If you can go to the link, either not necessarily minimize this, but either put it on another tab on your screen, or you can use your cell phone as well. But I'm going to need everyone to just go to that link. Once I get to the first question, you guys will be able to answer it. Clear those answers. I'm going to start fresh here. All right, looks like people are putting things in. That's good. So the first question, how would you rate your own understanding of what people in your major do? So this would be, again, how you feel you understand your own major. And I'll give everyone a few minutes to get to that link. It's still on the top of this slide as well. So feel free to go to that link. I'll give you guys about another minute. Once you're at the website, it becomes a little simpler. Basically, I'm going to go to the next question, and it will automatically refresh the new question on your screen. So you don't have to go to any other website links. You'll just stay on this link.
I wanted to ask, during which semester does this project take place?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, it's a 2-semester sequence. So in the fall semester is when students typically start at the beginning of their senior year, and then it goes continues into the spring semester. So it would be for the engineering students, it's across their entire senior year, and then for the business and comm students that get added on, it would be during that spring of the senior year. Although comm students and business students may not be seniors at that point based on the course that they're taking. All right, so we got some results in. Really interesting, right? You guys feel pretty confident, it seems like, about your own major. So the real question is, how would you rate people from other majors' understanding of what you do in your major? So just to clarify that question, if you're an engineering student, how do you think comm or business students understand your major, or vice versa? If you're a communication student, how well do you think engineering students understand your major? Yeah, so you don't have much faith in in your interdisciplinary peers, right? You believe they don't really understand you, and that's really one of those things we're trying to help improve, right? But it is true, right? A little bit of that is true, that there is no intermingling of these majors, and they really don't comprehend well what it is their peers do. We've got a few more questions. We'll just roll through them a little more quickly here. Now just a few questions about interdisciplinary knowledge. So how would you rate your own interdisciplinary knowledge? Great, yeah. So pretty confident, and that's perfectly fine. It's very similar. I've got a slide that we'll come back to that kind of just shows what our students said in the class on that first week, just as a comparison. But our students, for example, were pretty cocky. You know, they felt like they knew what they were doing. They felt like they knew their own discipline well. They felt like they also knew other disciplines well. So it really is kind of an eye-opener to see how people feel about both their own interdisciplinary knowledge and how they feel other students might have in terms of what they might have in terms of interdisciplinary knowledge. Okay, how would you rate your own collaboration abilities? So how well do you collaborate in a group? Yeah, so again, just looking at the trend, you know, you guys feel fairly confident about your group collaboration abilities, but then just similar to our students, you know, when the time arises and conflict happens in the group, that's been, you know, one of the struggles, right? Having that conflict resolution amongst these different disciplines. Many of the times, Lucrezia and I and Soobin, you know, we're laughing in the background, just man, these guys are, you know, fighting pretty hard. So we had to, you know, intervene once or twice within the semester. So, okay, 2 more questions. The answers have changed up a little bit here. What concerns you most about interdisciplinary collaboration? And obviously this isn't, you know, all inclusive. We have another category, but that's not necessarily the best catch-all. I think what we typically see here is, you know, a pretty broad distribution of what concerns most people have. It seems pretty unanimous here. You know, group dynamics, unequal workload are kind of the top, but time constraints and conflicts. You know, just thinking about merging 3 courses together and the time demands of these different disciplines are very different. Our campus is really complex. We have a lot of folks that work full or part-time as they come to school. And so just having a meeting where all these students can get together at the same time has been really difficult. So, all of these were and have been valid concerns from the students. And I've just got one more question for us. What do you value most in collaboration? Great. So another, fairly unanimous choice. It looks like most of you are really happy about gaining new perspective, right? Seeing the project from, again, if we're talking about interdisciplinary work, seeing the project from another person's eyes, especially if it's like a communication student now realizing more about STEM and engineering and can, understand what it is that they're working on the project. So anyways, thank you guys. I'm really excited to see that quite a few people participated in our little activity there. That's all we were going to do for that. So Mark, if you want to take the screen back over. I'm sorry, I'm still seeing. Okay. Sorry, let me get my screen back in order. It's a little wonky now. So these were the results that we did from our actual first class in the spring of 2020. So you can see very similar to what you guys had said. People in the top left here, people were fairly confident about their own understanding of what they do in their own major. And similarly to what you all had said, people thought that other majors didn't understand what they did, right, in that top right corner. Similarly, I think you guys were a little more proud of your interdisciplinary knowledge. So there were a lot of goods and fairs. So happy about that. I hope you guys are, getting that interdisciplinary knowledge in your learning in Croatia. How would you rate your own collaboration abilities? Again, students felt fairly highly about their own collaborative abilities, thought that they worked well in groups. And then from the last two at the bottom, you can see it was a pretty diverse set of concerns and value obtained from collaboration, but gaining new perspectives was the dominant one there as well. But that concern was pretty, spread across the board about what their concerns were. And with that, I'm going to let Soobin.
Hello, everybody. This is Soobin. I am the assistant professor of School of Hospitality Business Management in Carson College of Business here in WSU Everett. So like Jacob and Lucrezia and Mark shared with you, we personally had a lot of fun with this project. And then we have launched this project for 2 years in a row, and we're designing another virtual version this coming in 2021 spring. And we experimented a lot of things because we wanted to know whether the project is well designed, and we wanted to know whether students like it or dislike it, and we would like to improve it every year. So we have modified the version of 2019 into 2020, and we look at students' feedback from 2020 to improve 2021. So we actually used the multiple method for collecting data about how students feel about it. So there are kind of fun things that we used. The poll everywhere that Jacob just did was one of the activity that we did at the kickoff meeting. And then was it assumption session, but kind of at the beginning of the session. And we used another kind of a fun activity that was called the snowball fight activity, because we could feel that students come into class with a lot of worries, concerns, and then kind of excitement about, something, I'm going to do something fun, and there will be pizza at the kickoff meeting. So we could see kind of mixed emotions from our students. So we asked them 2 questions on one side of the paper, like, what do you think you could gain from other disciplines on this project? And on the other side of the paper, you know, what concerns or reservations do you have working with other disciplines on this project? And then we asked them to ball the paper and then throw out to the other side of the class. And then like we kept doing it and, you know, like let them pick up one paper ball, and then just read that was written by someone else. So that is kind of an ice-breaking activity, so that they could share, you know, like honestly, you know, what kind of excitement, what kind of expectations, and what kind of concerns they have. So we used a couple of the kind of fun activities, including the escape room. That was one of our team building activity. I'm going to show you some pictures like how that happened and what we did with that escape room activity. We actually put each group into each room, and then they have to get out of the room within an hour or so. I don't know whether you have that kind of escape rooms in Croatia. It is kind of getting popular here in US. Do you?
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, that's the same thing, the escape room activity we did. And after that activity, we surveyed the students how they like it. And then we also observed the students' kind of group dynamics when they are in the escape room. So that was one of the data that we used. And we also asked did the final exit survey. What did you like and dislike? And what kind of suggestions do you have? And students were pretty honest about, and there were a lot of complaints, of course. And then we try to take that feedback and to modify the next version. And lastly, we also use pre and post interdisciplinary survey. I'm going to talk a little bit more about it because, Mark, can you move on to the next slide? Because this survey was designed to evaluate students' confidence level on 5 aspects that is related to business, customer, social, technological, and communication, because we wanted to see some changes before and after, because like the main purpose of the SOAR project was to like kind of improve their interdisciplinary skills, or at least their confidence level in something that they were not familiar with. So we used a total of 14 questions to self-evaluate their confidence level in those 5 aspects using Qualtrics. And then we administered this survey at the beginning, like at the beginning of the semester, and then used it again at the end of the semester. And what we found from the survey was quite positive. So the blue line shows the before, the pre, or they experienced the SOAR project. And orange line shows their confidence level after participating in this SOAR project. So like you can see, kind of like change a little different by major. Not that much changes from that HBM is hospitality business management student, and COM is COM student, EE electrical engineering student. So we can see the most drastic changes that we could see from communication students, and especially all those 5 aspects, but especially in terms of the technological aspect, they showed, you know, like drastic changes from 1 to 4. So they showed my confidence level in, you know, when I saw my student, because I'm teaching marketing class for business and communication students. When I say we're going to do some interdisciplinary project from the engineering department, is going to be sponsored by Boeing and, you know, like energy generator, like electricity. And then they were like, I don't want to do that. Like, you know, like they were kind of afraid of something that they were not familiar with. But once they jump in and they work with the engineering students and some other students, and then like when they finish up the project, they feel like, okay, I was really afraid of this, but I found myself that I can understand and I can work on those projects. So we have seen a lot of improvement in terms of their confidence level in all those aspects. So that was one positive outcome.
Looking at the pre and post with electric engineers, would you say they think too highly of themselves?
Yes, they were. In general, I think they were pretty generous about themselves. And, you know, like I said, like, especially for engineering students, they don't really see that much improvement in their confidence level in technological aspect. But they feel like they know the project well, and then they know kind of technological skills, but they were not really familiar with like how to create video, how to create infographics, and how to think about how to develop the business plan, how to think about the marketing plan to sell this product well, and you know how to think about the customer's mindset, and how to think about the impact of this project socially, and you know, like something like that. So we could see more improvements in, you know, business, customer, and communication and social aspect from engineering.
Does it bring problems in a teamwork, working with other teams?
Oh, that could be a problem.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it could be. And then not especially with that, but like there's been a lot of challenges that we have seen by major. And then engineering students had like different type of like complaints and challenges compared to the business students and comm students had. So probably like we can share some challenges and kind of events that we heard from our students probably, yeah, at the Q&A session too.
I'll step in and just make a comment on one example of, as you kind of just mentioned, with regard to, you could see the EEs were pretty confident going into the project, right? They had that extra 6 months before already working as a team. So, you know, they're a little more kind of in tune with the project and ready to move forward. But similarly, you could see, you know, that HBM group, the business group, they were fairly confident in their communication skills. And then after they realized maybe their communication skills weren't as good as they thought, right? So that's why that dip happened, because they were overly confident, you know, in between almost at a level 6 there on the scale. And then after the project realized, okay, maybe my communication skills aren't as good as I thought they were. Comm students, on the other hand, you could see they had no confidence in technology, but moving through this project, they really improved on that.
Thanks.
Marco, can you go to the next slide? So like, I'd like to wrap up with our final thoughts and future work. Like I said, we found both fear and excitement from our students at the beginning of the course, but over the time, those emotions stabilized and students get familiar with the project. And at the end, we, like I said, we have heard a lot of like complaints and some discomfort, especially from the groups that had not really good dynamics within their groups. But in overall, like we have seen a lot of evidence for the sense of achievement, and then appreciation, and then very good evaluations in overall from our students. Because it was kind of an alien to our students at the beginning, you know, like I'm not really speaking their language, and then they were kind of afraid to reach out to students with different majors. But like working as a team, and at the end of the semester, like we have seen a lot of good comments from our students that kind of became a motivation for all of us to continue with this project every year. And then we are, our future work, we're anticipating to add more kind of student work and analysis especially for the spring 2021 semester, and especially it's going to be a virtual version, so there should be another challenges for us, but we're looking forward to continue offering this type of SOAR project for our students. So let me share with you a couple of pictures that we took for our students, and then I can show you another video that our students
created. So this picture was taken at the kickoff meeting. We actually got some fund from university, and then we had a pizza party to, kind of for ice breaking and to give pizza party to when we first introduced the project. And, this is the time when they meet all together. And the next picture is taken from the escape room. Like I said, like they had to get out of the room within an hour, and then I think this group made it in 58 minutes. So just the 2 minutes left, and then they made it. So they really enjoyed this activity. It has nothing to do with the project itself, but they are just having fun and going towards the same goal as a team. So we're thinking probably virtual escape room for the next year. But this has been a pretty good way to build teamwork at the beginning of the semester. And then this is what we did when they were in escape rooms. There was a monitor room that we can see all the groups that are working on in each room. And then we kind of heard and looked at how they are doing and kind of observed group dynamics. That was one of our data that we haven't published yet, but we have data for that group dynamics. And then the next picture, I think it is taken at the business, the plan presentation. So there are the hospitality business management students and comm and electrical engineering students that they presented their business presentation as a team, and we kind of celebrated at the end of it. So you could see how happy they are. And then they were very felt good about their product. So these are some pictures. And then this is another poster that one of our Boeing Scholars team, that one of our groups also in SOAR, they worked on the project, how to grow coral to reduce carbon emissions. And then I think this group has won the business plan competition now. It was a year before, but they went for the business plan competition and they did a great job in there. And then from business faculty, what they inspired and impressed me was they worked on the branding part for the growing coral. And then they named it, and that is kind of gives the impression of what that product might be. And then they designed their own logo, and they thought about like different marketing strategies for different stakeholders. So that was really good thing that I felt about this team, and they did really good job. So let me share with you the video of the growing coral.
Okay, I'm gonna.
Roscoe, can you play the video,
yes,
please? The second video.
Second.
There's something you need to know. The ocean's rainforests are dying. Scientists say coral reefs, home to a quarter of all marine life, will be gone by the end of the century if nothing changes. And that affects you. You might not see it just yet, but you will. Coral gives us jobs, food, safety, and when it's gone, a part of us will go with it, unless we can save it. That's our goal at Coralio. We make coral grow faster and stronger with our Leo Reef technology and engineering to capture the minerals in salt water.
With low current and low voltage, Leo Reefs uses a method called electrolysis to capture the minerals of the ocean to give the coral a foundation to grow on. This method has been shown to drastically improve coral survival rates.
We're starting in tanks, both home and commercial, where Coralio will heighten public awareness, fund research and development, and has the potential to reduce carbon levels. But our goal is the ocean. By strengthening the coral, we can help it survive global impacts, and by speeding its growth, we can improve the rate of recovery of our ocean's reefs.
As a company, we want to make this technology available to everyone, such as consumers, businesses, and government entities.
Because we're not just building a company, we are working to save coral from extinction, and Coralio is giving us all a fighting chance.
Yes, yeah. Thank you for sharing. So, Marco, can you go back to the slide? I think that is the end of our presentation. So we're very proud of our students, and this project is still working on project going on, and we're looking forward to any feedback, any questions that you might have on our project. So thank you for listening, and then please feel free to ask any questions for us.
Thank you first for your wonderful presentation and engaging one. And now I invite the audience to share their thoughts and questions with us. So please, whoever is the most confident. Okay, there's one hand in the air, so please switch the mic.
So maybe I'm not the most confident, but maybe I have the fastest finger. One slide reminded me of the Survivor show there. So when you look at them through these cameras there, so you made it like the Survivor or what?
Yeah, I could go over the escape room activity. It's becoming really popular in America, but you literally just throw people into a room and they are tasked with solving puzzles and riddles to try to escape the room within a designated amount of time. So we found this as a really good opportunity for team building, especially with just we're literally throwing strangers in a room, right? We're taking the
and I'm sorry, what majors are they? What majors were there from?
Yeah, so exactly. We take the engineering students that are working together, throw in the business students, throw in the comm students. So it's basically the group. There was a size limitation of, I think, 8 students max for each room. But we had engineering, business, and comm students that were working on that project all in that room trying to escape together. So they had to use their communication skills. You really have to work together if you're going to make it out in time.
And the problem, I'm sorry, the problem was mostly engineering problem.
It's a variety of riddles and I think a STEM focused mind does well in those kind of rooms. But the communication students and business students, they just the same were very helpful. I mean, there were the shy folks that might have stuck to their corner and not done much in the room, but from our data that we both observed and student output, it really showed that students loved the project. They got out of their shells. They started communicating across the disciplines to escape in time. We only had one group that didn't escape in time across both years. So,
and what is the time frame for that room there? How long do they stay there? And when in that 16-week agenda, where it falls within the 16-week time frame?
Yeah, so they get an hour. That's the pretty hard cap time. They can there's the voice from above that they can get tips from if they're stuck on something for a really long time. They might get a helpful prod in the right direction. But I believe it was week 4. So it was in the SOAR timeline, but I think around week 4 is when we did it. So we really wanted to do it earlier in the semester, still when they're kind of new, getting started on the project. But it was interestingly difficult enough to find a time that everyone could meet, because as I mentioned earlier, the schedules of these 3 different majors is really different in our programs. So it was hard to find a time.
All right, thank you.
I want to add something. We saw some interesting things in our observations. For example, there were certain situations where we saw very strong leadership from one individual would sort of overwhelm a quieter person who was sitting saying, well, why don't we try this? And that person was ignored because they were kind of quiet and a little bit shy. And the more powerful personality would sort of shove them in the wrong direction. And so they'd lose like 10 minutes, where if the quieter person had been observed, they would have gone much quicker. So as observers, as professors watching this, we actually watched the group dynamics where a personality person can sort of overwhelm a more quiet, thoughtful person and slow a group down. So it was interesting to watch.
And as a person who actually observed their escape room activity, it was quite interesting. Their dynamic at the beginning is different from at the end. Like the leader is like kind of dominant, kind of consistently, and then they are kind of scattered around and then just looking around without any teamwork. But as time goes by and by the approaching to the end of that end of the clues that we have shown more evidence of teamwork and collaboration at the end. So that kind of, even within not a long time, but within the 1 hour, we could see that they are building some teamwork during that activity. So it was quite interesting to watch.
And is that project of yours still like sort of pilot project, or it's a regular class within the curriculum, or what is the status now?
It is extra activity. We didn't make it as mandatory, and then like it says, and then we had this activity. Like my class was held on Thursday, but we reserved the 3-hour time slot on Friday morning to encourage our students to come over. But like it was not mandatory, but like most of students showed up because like it is free, fun activity, right? And it cost money, so we had some university funds to fund this project, but it cost about like $1,200, and students know that, and they just showed up to have some fun with their group members.
And some pizza.
There was no pizza for this activity, but like they got pizza at the kickoff meeting.
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, I have 2 questions on the chat board, so I'm gonna read them out. First one is from Vinko Kovac. Did any of the students from the group promote themselves as the leaders of the group? Or so, as I understand the question, were there anyone or more people who actually wanted to be the leaders, who showed leader visions?
Yeah, traditionally in the senior capstone project class, so without the added on stuff of SOAR, I've been pretty adamant about my group selecting their own leadership structure in their own teams, whatever works for them kind of thing. So if there's a dominant leader, or if they want a democratic process where everyone kind of has a vote, or any structure they want for their leadership. But if it's not working for them, we ask that maybe you mix it up and try something else. We have what's known as a communications liaison for the group that kind of focuses on doing all the communications. They're not necessarily the leader, though. Once we add all those extra students on, though, it becomes an issue with where's the leadership? Is the engineering student a lead, or is the comm student a lead, or is the business student a lead? It becomes a bigger issue regarding who is leading the project, and those dominant personality types having this like power struggle. And like I mentioned, Lucrezia, Soobin, and I had to laugh a couple times at some of the groups dynamics and having to take them aside and work out some of those power struggles amongst the different majors. I don't know if Lucrezia or Soobin want to add anything onto that.
Well, one of the things that is evident, and one of the things that we try to even point out to our students, is that people process information differently. And a lot of times you have scientists and engineers are introspective. They work in their head before they open their mouth. Whereas you'll have other people who are maybe type A personalities or communication students who are talking all the time, and they're throwing all the ideas out on the blackboard, and they're working it out while they're talking. And so the ways that people actually process information can be phenomenally different. And we have to remind our groups that you know, the person that you're talking to may not be saying that's the solution. They're just talking it out. And so just that practice of being in a room with an introvert and an extrovert trying to communicate, you know, their problem solving, that alone is really valuable to the students.
Okay.
And if I add one more thing about that group conflict, I think for college students, I think scheduling is really a matter to them. And then like one person try to meet on, you know, virtually or in person, but like some are working, and a lot of students in our campus, they are working. So some of them cannot make it to the meeting, and the person who hosted the meeting was angry about, you know, that people who didn't show up and just came to faculty member like complaining about their members are not contributing and the other members are, what's going on? Like there has been some kind of ugly situations just like that. They were very sensitive about like respecting others' time, and some who are not able to make it to the meeting or, you know, like to do the work. And there are different working styles as well. Some are constantly doing things on time, and some are who are procrastinating at the end of the, you know, semester. So there were different working styles that kind of create conflict among the group dynamics. Like during the semester, it was not really fun to watch or like kind of resolve that conflict, but it is all the learning for us, you know, to see what's going on and how to resolve the conflict for students.
Okay, thank you. The next question is from Petar Benjak. You said that some companies offer jobs to the students from the project, so I'd like to know how the company organized themselves to watch the skills those students had so they can decide if they want to employ them. And
Yeah,
which qualities did they focus on in order to employ them?
Yeah, as I mentioned regarding kind of the structure, a company sponsors a project, and they have they provide at least one mentor, so someone that works at the company, usually an engineering focused person that is kind of overseeing the project, making sure the students are on the right track. If the students have technical questions, they can either go to the client or a faculty volunteer that's on our side at the university. But those clients, they get to, you know, mingle with that student group for the entire 2 semesters, right? And see the work output from each of the individual students. It's not necessarily a direct hire. Our students learn, I guess, get the inside scoop, if you will, on opportunities that might be available at the company, and then they would apply and put the resume in just like any other student may. But once that hiring manager knows that, oh, hey, Lynn, she worked on that project and she she did really well on the project. She did, like I said, hard work. She communicated well with us. I think she was the communication liaison, for example, on the project. So you just had that interworking 2 semesters with the student and the client, and so she got advantage moving into the hiring field for that. That's just one example. Like I said, there's been a number of opportunities that our students have gotten by again, just the interaction they've had with their client and on the project. It's almost like an internship, right? You in an internship, you're basically seeing if that person is a good fit for the company. Well, similarly, in the capstone projects, you're getting to see their work on a project with their peers and seeing if they're going to be a good fit for the company, and if they're doing the same kind of exhibiting the same personality traits and things like that that the company would value and want to take in as full-time employment.
Okay, thank you. Lucrezia, you wanted to say something? No? No, okay. Then I have something to say to our students, there are quite a few of them right now with us. This what you just said. I've seen in my company where I work, and this is a pretty big company, and we employ a lot of engineering students and other majors. In fact, I've seen many people who were our interns while they were studying. They spent, like, I don't know, a few weeks or a month or a few months here, who are now our employees, because we see them, we know them, you know, and when they come, they create chances for them, and students can somehow potentially disregard this moment of acquiring their sort of network, you know, connections with other people, which is very important. And these kinds of projects are very beneficial for the students who engage in them, actually. And when we employ people, when we employ majors, it is often very hard to assess their actual knowledges, abilities, and whatever when they come to interviews. But what we always try to assess whether those people would fit into the company, you know. So they have one of the obvious things which engineering students often disregard in a way, is that engineers actually work with people, you know. They're not working with shovels and hammers, and so it's basically a social kind of job. So I have another question from Vinko Kovac. Did any of the group stay together and worked on the same other projects?
So did groups stay beyond the scope of this project and continue working on projects? Is that?
Yeah.
I don't think that's something we've measured. Typically, we're talking about the senior year of the students, right? So theoretically, after they've finished this project, they are leaving us, they're graduating. Now, does that mean that they don't stay in touch? No, I think there are definitely opportunities, especially like within the Boeing Scholars Group, where students definitely stay in touch beyond the scope of the course. I think Mark's got some comments to add as well.
Mark, please.
Yes, we've had a number of students that have gone on and worked together. OceanGate, like Jacob had mentioned, we have a couple of students that are working together and continue to work. I think they do keep in touch. We reached a milestone this past weekend where WSU Everett had our first interdisciplinary wedding, and an electrical engineering student and a hospitality business management student got married. So students here, be careful of these interdisciplinary projects. You never know what you're going to end up with when you graduate. Yes, so Luke and Olivia got married this past weekend, and so that's a first for us.
Yes.
I want to mention one other thing from the group's output, the videos and the poster presentations. Those tend to be quite valuable for people's visual resumes when they go out later to look for jobs. So particularly, obviously, I know more about my communication students, but being able to present that they could communicate a scientific project showed a level of communication skills above and beyond many of their competitors. And so it was a valuable addition to their visual resume. And I would assume that if an engineer was applying for a job and had a video that showed the work that they had done in college, that could also be advantageous, where more than engineers are going to be looking at the applicants, and so it can have a trickle-down effect.
Yeah, I would like the same for the business students as well. Like, I think this opportunity has broadened their kind of perspective and their how they look at their future jobs as well. Our hospitality business management students usually look at their job opportunities only in hospitality or like hotels or restaurants or that kind of hospitality industry. But after experiencing this, they can broaden that. Oh, I could probably work at some other companies, not like hospitality, some, engineering related companies or anywhere that I can fit. And there should be some way that I can get some jobs other than this. So I think that is really the benefit of like just putting them into, to experience something new so that, like Jacob says, they can break their own shell and get out of it.
I have a question.
Yes.
Okay. Approximately how many people are participating in the project? Do you have teams working on different projects? Do they compete between each other? I don't know, two people working on one project, then they compete with each other, and I'm interested in concept.
Yeah, so the size is based on the size of the 3 courses total. So as an example, in spring of 2019, I think I mentioned it was 59 total students. Typical group size is 4 to 5 engineering students per project, 1 to 2 communication students per project. And I believe in the last 2 years, we've had about 4 business students on each project. So we're talking about 10 students total. And students had complained, engineering students specifically had complained about how many non-engineering students were on each group. So, we're talking about how to keep the balance of the ratio of engineers to business to comm students in a good number, because the groups get pretty unwieldy when you have 10 people that are trying to set a time that they can meet. But yeah, that's about the group size that we've had. The number of projects ranges between 5 to 7 typically in any given year. It just depends upon, like I said, the number of engineering students we have, and then the number of comm and business students that we have in those 3 courses. In terms of competing, we have a unique set of groups that we showed the videos for example, called Boeing Scholars, but they're kind of the predecessor of this SOAR project that we're talking about. They were the original interdisciplinary group that we've been using as kind of a model for expanding to all our students, which is what is now known as the SOAR project. They would compete in a business plan competition at the end of the year. We don't necessarily require that all of the SOAR groups do that, but they're encouraged to if they would like to. And then similarly, we do have like an in-house at the end that final presentation is judged by industry sponsors, by basically our engineering industrial advisory board. So members from that board would judge all of the final student presentations, and there would be kind of a first, second, and third place that comes out of that final presentation as well.
Okay, thanks, Mark.
Yes, we have had some success with the business plan competition. It's been going on now for over 20 years. And we have had teams that have made it to the final rounds, which is quite impressive because they are competing with even outside entities, public companies that would come in and pitch their ideas and their products. And we had one of our teams 3 years ago that won the competition, and that was real money. They got $15,000 for their winnings, which was really good. And this year, we hope our team will continue to move forward. But yes, it is possible. And we've had some other success with this notion going into other areas of the university. We've got a wind energy project, which is sponsored by the Department of Energy. And it actually is a group of community college and WSU Everett students working together. They went to the competition last year, placed 3rd in the nation under technical and 7th in the nation under overall, which is really pretty amazing for the first time out in this wind energy competition. So it's gaining strength in this idea across the campus.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I have 3 more questions on the chat board, but before I read them out, they're all from the same person. I have some ideas to share, sort of. Somebody here asked whether your students engaged in your projects keep in touch after the projects are finished. I'd say it's not really that important. What is important in forming your network of people while you are studying will take effect in, so say 10 years or so, because you will have your network of friends, of professional friends from your study days, and how it goes in a society when, you know, some of yours who are now students, some of you will be the first one or the first ones who will climb at some corporate ladder and get a position where they can decide and hire people and so on, and they will need closer associates. For example, if a person becomes a CEO of a company, then that person would need another people for middle managerial positions and so on. And that person would choose those people from the pool of friends they have. And the friends are made at the university during this time, mostly, in my experience. So it is not really important whether they stay in touch immediately after they finish the study or some project. It's not like that. Then let me just explain a little bit our situation here in Zagreb. We don't have actually a university campus where you would have all those various professions or majors circulating around. For example, the Faculty of Electrical Engineering, they have their own premises, and in these buildings you can encounter only students of electrical engineering. So while they're studying, they're all electrical engineers, future electrical engineers. But the moment they join a company, there are all sorts of people there. So it is, I'd say, very important for our students to be aware of the fact that they will need to work with people of many other professions or education levels or whatever. So it is, I'd say, this what you do is very important for not only for education but for growing future professionals. Now, sorry.
If you don't mind, I'd like to add on to
what
you just mentioned. Our main campus in Pullman is the same way, right? Engineering students are in the engineering building. So I think why it has worked so well for us is we are a brand new startup campus with only one building. And as Lucrezia, mentioned earlier, we have offices right next door to each other. The students are in the same building as each other. And I think that's why the model that we've chosen while we're still in our infancy as a university campus is what has made it successful. Once you are an established university, even like I said, our main campus across the state, they have those silos built up already where engineering is all in the same building, doesn't communicate with anybody outside of the college, and communication has their own building. All their students go to courses in that building. We don't have those barriers, and we're trying to make sure that we kind of intertwine now before it might be too late, where we do have those barriers up. Yeah.
Thanks. So perhaps I read now the 3 questions from Krešimir Kovačević. First one is, what do potential employers think about students that take courses with interdisciplinary elements? The second, are they more or less desirable compared to better scoring students that only focus on a single discipline? And C, the third question, do some even care I don't feel like most companies are like Google, and they seem to only really care about a single or maybe two disciplines that is or are decided by the chosen position. For example, someone in marketing only needs business and communication, someone in engineering only needs STEM, etc. So those are the three questions.
I think Lucrezia probably has a lot to say on this topic, but I just wanted to make one initial comment is, Dubravko, you mentioned yourself how important it is for engineers to have those social skills and be able to communicate with other disciplines. When you go into a company, it doesn't have to be Google. You can go to OceanGate, a local small startup company in Everett. They're going to have business folks. They're going to have communications folks. It's not just going to be a group of engineers. You're not going to get very far in a business if that's all of what you hire. So interdisciplinary skills are very important. And again, we've worked with our advisory board to basically say the exact same thing, that they're looking to hire students that have these interdisciplinary skills. So that's all I want to say on that. I'll stop dominating the question answer time.
Yes, okay, and Lucrezia, you were to. I'm sorry, I'm just pronouncing your name in an Italian way because it is an Italian name.
It is indeed.
Like it or not.
That's the way my mother said it.
Yeah. Okay.
It's such a good question, and the reason is because what we are doing right now is we are really seeing the cusp of change. You are witnessing companies that have done things in a certain way for many years and have been very successful. And they've concentrated their energies and their talents and their hiring in a certain way that has worked. What we are seeing, and a really good site to visit would be to go and look at the World Economic Forum and look at the decisions and the discussions, the interdisciplinary dependencies that they really show well at their website. They really show the interdisciplinary needs, and what we're seeing is this is the change. You're witnessing these are moments of huge change where people are going to look back. It's like right now you look back and you say, what was the world like before the internet? It was a different world. Well, we're at a cusp here where things are changing, and the employment, the people who employ, the people who hire, some are still a little bit behind the times, but the people who are at the forefront, who are building the biggest companies, who are paying the biggest salaries, who are dependent on their groups being the most productive and the most successful, they are the future. They're seeing the way it has to go, and they are the ones, the Googles, the IT corridor is really at the forefront of seeing the need for interdisciplinary skills. And I mean, you take a look at it, Netflix cannot function without incredibly skilled IT people. They also have to have marketers who are brilliant. Then those people have to be able to talk to each other and work out ideas together. And so they come together in these groups, and it's this very issue that they are dealing with. I had a daughter who worked at Netflix, and they would send all the managers away to groups sort of like we did with our escape room. They would send them away to camp for a week and make them work together and make them put on plays, Antigone, where they would have to put on performances and work these things out together to create the group dynamics that we're trying to do in these programs. So yes, you are going to find companies that are still doing it old ways, but I think the companies you want to get involved with are the ones that are taking a more interdisciplinary approach. And Mark has a comment.
From the business perspective, the answer to that question came to us very clearly about 3 years ago, 3 to 4 years ago. We met with our National Board of Advisors for the Carson College of Business, and the dean was soliciting information on are we preparing our graduates for the workplace of the future? And that simple question came back to where the board of advisors said, you're doing a great job on all the technical things about business. They can do finance equations and time value of money and create all kinds of wonderful statements of cash flow and everything, but you're missing the mark on these softer skills, the ones that Google was coming up. And so we set about revamping our entire College of Business curriculum, top to bottom. First time that had been done in over 25 years. And now our students are really keen to working in this interdisciplinary space. A very telling quotation came from one of our advisory board members who is a VP of HR for Edelman, which is a huge global PR company. And she said, we hire graduates for what they know, but we fire them for who they are. And so keep that in mind in terms of thinking of the importance of the skills that you would be learning by working in interdisciplinary groups.
Yes, of course. And there are some more questions on the chat board, but again, I have another thought about interdisciplinarity. What does it mean? It may not be quite obvious to the people who currently study electrical engineering, for example, like our audience. But in my own experience, I studied a lot, several different things, and I never, in my whole career, I never worked really what I studied for. So this is another interesting thing. You are not determined by what you are studying right now. You are not determined by electrical engineering as a profession, by any particular direction you take in your study or whatever. So the real life doesn't function in that way. So you're just have to be prepared to whatever life may bring to you. And next, I myself met quite at least several people who were wonderful managers in technology sector, who were not neither engineers nor I don't know, business administrators nor finance people, who were like from agricultural profession or whatever. So this is something that it is worth thinking of, at least to say. Vinko Kovac has a question. How does the project work in the COVID situation, and are there any differences in the project?
Luckily, we didn't have a huge impact on our project this year in 2020 because we finished a lot of work in the early 2020 in January and February, and we only had 1 or 2 assignments left in March and April, and things were kind of worse in March. So having finished the majority of it in February, so we didn't have a huge impact. But at the final access survey, like we've got some student feedback and their reflections on the project, and there were a couple of sentences related to COVID, like buy a lot of papers that will make sense later, you know, because like they were kind of reflecting their experience with the COVID during the semester. So this year, not that huge impact, but next year probably is going to be 100% online, and they cannot meet at least once in person. So that virtual group dynamic probably will be harder in general, but we believe there are some positive things. It could be easier together, you know, rather than just meeting in person. So we would like to make it as smooth as, you know, the last year to be for this project in 2021.
Okay. Thank you. Are there any more questions from the audience? If not, Then are there any discussions from our guests? Lucrezia, okay.
I want to thank you so very much for inviting us to be a part of your forum. This has been lovely for us, lovely to meet all of you, and I hope we'll be able to do something similar again.